Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this Etheria restart video. So in this Etheria restart video, we're going to talk about the 6-star priority guide with the current stage of the game. So first of all, before we begin, just a few disclaimers. Number one, this tier ratings or tier list is based off my personal experience, and with regards to like the 6-star recommendation or the priority recommendation, I will be placing more emphasis on generically versatile characters in both PvE as well as PvP game modes, because there are certain units which are quite good on the PvP side, but they are for the late game, right? In the current stage, we're in the early to mid game where we are pushing for all our dungeons to be at the highest difficulty so that we can get the best gears, which will then translate to the later part, which is the RTA portion. So this will be a more early to mid game tier list. I will be putting a 6-star priority guide moving forward once we reach the end game or once we reach the late game, for example. That will be for the future. Okay, so that will be the state of this tier list itself. Early to mid, generally versatile characters, they will have a higher priority. Versatile and strong, they're definitely in T0, so that will be the basic structure. So for this tier list itself, we have the T0. So like I mentioned earlier, these are basically versatile characters. These are usually the best of the best in whatever they do, and they can be used for both PvE as well as PvP contents. So they are worthy for that 6-star investment, and they will want those 6-star investments for the additional stats you can get for the level 50 bonus in general. So some of them, they want the speed, some of them they want the HP, some of them they want the attack or the defense stat. So that will be for the T0 units. One representation will be Messiah. So Messiah is hands down one of the most neutral, best carry around, because you can use Messiah for almost every single boss, almost every single dungeon, because he doesn't have that much of an elemental weakness against most of the dungeons. So what this means is he will be able to maximize his damage and survive decently well, because unlike the red, blue, green carries, there will be one boss which you can't use them. For Messiah's case, you can use this unit for all of them if you have enough stats, if you have the team built around him. So that's for Messiah T0 representation. Now for T0.5, I'll say these units, I guess to a certain extent, let's say if you don't have the T0 units, or if you already invested in your T0 units to 6-star, I guess they are good to be on this side. So one representation will be Lian. So one thing about Lian is this unit is a unit which you will probably want to get to 6-star eventually because of the Hyperlink Charter quest, and being one of the most accessible carries for most players' account, is a unit that everyone has in their account. So this unit is pretty decent for most of the early to mid game for your PvE contents in general. So investing in this unit to 6-star for the additional damage output as well as the survival, so that you can clear through your PvE dungeons more easily, is definitely worth it if let's say you don't have a Messiah or you don't have some of the better carries on the T0 tier. So this unit is a unit which you'll eventually get to 6-star anyway. So yeah, T0.5 is good enough for her. So next one, we have the 5-star is good for now. So for this tier itself, the best representation I can think of for this tier would be Freya. Or maybe Freya can be T0.5. Okay, so the reason why Freya is in 5-star is good for now is not because Freya is a bad unit. In fact, Freya is an amazing unit. This unit is insanely powerful, has buffs, has debuffs, has the ability to manipulate their turns. So if you do want to upgrade her to 6-star, I think it's possible. This will give her more speed stats to get her skills off, to get your buffs off and the debuffs off. But at the same time, the reason why I put her in a 5-star is good for now is because Freya is not that stats reliant as a support buffer, debuffer type of unit. A lot of her stats are very fixed, and I think 5-star maximizing on speed in terms of her main stats is actually good enough for now. But eventually moving forward, if you're using her a lot for the PvP contents, she'll definitely appreciate those additional stats to survive better or go faster to get her skills off. So personally speaking, if you sort of think of her as a unit that you use a lot and you use in different game modes, you can definitely bump her up to 6-star T0 for sure. But for now, I think in the current stage, Freya is a unit that's good enough at 5-star because of her stats not affecting her skills overall too much. So that's for Freya's positioning. Not a bad unit, just not that worthy to be 6-star. So that's for Freya. Maybe later. So maybe later is basically units which I think can scale into the late game for RTA contents. But right now, probably not a good choice to put them to sort of 6-star because I think personally these units are just too PvP centric, right? So like if you do bump them up to 6-star and then you do use them for your PvE contents, you're gonna struggle and then you might break there. So that's why they are maybe later. So like probably not for now, maybe later. So that's why we have this tier name over here. And then last but not least, we have Don't Bother. So Don't Bother is basically units which I think they're generally not good, not worth the investment from 5-star to 6-star, at least based off the current meta. So I'll break down all the different SRs and SSR units, but for the R units, I think it's pretty self-explanatory because these units, they're basically understated, their skill numbers are on the lower end, so investing in too much star levels for them is not gonna benefit your account too much because they don't offer that big of a boost compared to the likes of some of the T0 or T0.5 units in general. So that's why they're here. So you can definitely invest in them in the future, but probably not now. At least don't bother for now. So that's for this R units. So starting off with the don't bother list first, we will start off with the SRs and then the SSRs. So I've put a few of them here. Right now, I would actually want to put Dorothy the Wisher here as well, and I'll explain all of them together. So first of all, we have Chucky the Guard. Chucky the Guard is a tank unit that wants to sort of taunt the enemy, and I'll say to a certain extent, like yeah, if you do build him up, he might be decent, but so far I have never seen anyone use him. So on a personal level, I don't think this unit is good, and I think this unit, this Chucky the Guard over here, the one that I'm moving, I think it's probably not a unit which you would think about even in the late game as well. So that's why he's in the don't bother tier. Oboro has defense down as well as damage over time, but they're just better units that does what she does better. Like, I guess you can probably invest in her if you plan to use her for the aesthetic purposes, right? For PvP, I think she's probably usable, but like, I think in terms of like countering certain kits or being a standout in terms of what she do, you have better replacements anyway. So that's why I put her in the don't bother. We have the Kazuyo base version. I think this is the base version. There's also the Reverie portion. So yeah, Reverie is here. Okay, so I'm gonna put both the Kazuyos here. So first of all, the base version, personally speaking, I think this unit is really not that good. This is Kazami Kazuyo. Okay, so this unit has a dispel and a cooldown reduction, but you just have better units for what she does right here. So wait, let me shift my portrait up a bit. Okay, so continuing the list itself, this unit, Kazuyo Kazami right here, this unit, I think, yeah, you just have way better units for what she does. So like similar to Kachi, similar to Oboro, she's not a unit which I will actually be bothered to upgrade to 6-star. So next one we have Kazuyo Reverie. So this is the green holo version that has AoE control that you might be seeing some use for Doki Doki. So yeah, she's good for Doki Doki, but she is used for her slumber ability, which is not that stats reliant. You can actually bump up her speed and her defensive stats by giving her modules. So I wouldn't put her in a mass upgrade to 6-star. I think 4 or 5-star, if you probably need stats to survive. So let's say if you need stats to survive, I think 5-star is good enough, but I won't bother to upgrade her to 6-star because like it will be a waste of resources in terms of the stats that we're going to get out of her. So that's for Kazuyo. Tsutomu is pretty underused, so like I have been dissing this unit for a long time, so I haven't seen any use for this unit yet. So like the only time I see him is as an opponent in the PV side, and usually the dungeons are pretty easy with him. So like yeah, probably don't bother. So next we have Dorothy the Wisher. Dorothy the Wisher is a buffer character, cooldown reduction with life leech as well as crit damage. Pretty good overall, but like I mentioned, similar to, for example, Reverie right here, Dorothy is not that stats reliant. Like a lot of her skill set doesn't have too much to scale off the stats. So like if you do want to upgrade her and use her, I think 5-star is decent enough. And she's a utility character that has a lot of replacement in the first place, right? For crit, you have Grey, you have Rosa. For life leech, it is good, but it's not like the best buff you can get anyway. So like she does have a use, but I don't think she's a 6-star worthy character, so that's why I don't bother. The Dorothy, this is the Dorothy base version, the healer version. The reason why she's here is because you just have way better healers up there, and like with Lingluo being free and healers not being like the most important thing, at least in terms of like your generic PV pushing in general, like you can survive without a healer if you are like bursty enough, right? If you're able to push the opponent back with Marvel, with Freya, with all the turn manipulators, or control them, and then just bring them down, you don't actually need a healer. So healer is not a must-have. And in terms of Dorothy, she's a unit that definitely can scale off having more attack for more heal numbers, but I'll still put Don't Bother because we just have better healer options. Even the nerf version of Sanya feels better than Dorothy, because I personally use Dorothy myself. I think even this nerf unit is way better than her, so that's why I put her in the Don't Bother. So for the SSR tier, we have Serlins. So Serlins is a unit which in general is, I guess, usable for her shielding and her debuff, but it's just a little bit too RNG based. I personally don't like it, so yeah, like I don't bother using her, and I wouldn't recommend people using her, so that's why she's here. So Serlins is here. Another SSR which I want to put here, I think another SSR which I want to put here, I actually wanted to put Doki Doki, but I think most SSR is fine. Some of them they are maybe later. So I guess Serlin is the only one that I'll say don't bother, cause like she's just really underpowered. Okay, so that's for don't bother here. I think Turandot. I think we'll put Turandot here as well. Okay, so Turandot's skill kit is a buff on attack defense as well as a dispel, and also some turn meter manipulation. So this is also another relatively non-stat reliant unit, so I guess you can put her in the don't bother. Like if you want, get her to 5-star. If you want to use her, I think that's good enough. Don't need to 6-star unless you have a lot of resources and you have all the better units to 6-star upgraded on top. So that's for the Turandot over here. I think Chiaki. So Chiaki, I think personally is not a unit which sees a lot of use right now, because almost everyone has a Freya. Freya basically does what Chiaki wants to do and maybe a little bit better. But I think Chiaki does have some use for her buff, for her attack buff, as well as the dispel for the first skill. Another very non-stat reliant unit, so I think don't bother for now. Not because she's bad, but like I think she can do okay at just 5-star. Maybe I guess you can say put her in the maybe later for some like PvP contents. Okay, I think Chucky is maybe later, because like you probably need like most of your speed tuners upgraded to 6-star for the speed stats anyway, so maybe later for Chucky, although she's not that stats reliant for now. RC77, yeah, this unit pretty bad, don't bother. Not gonna talk too much about this unit, haven't seen use, probably won't see use. Makoto, I'm gonna put Makoto here because I haven't seen too much of a Makoto in terms of the general contents. Maybe might be busted for PvP, but having run through her kit itself, I think Makoto is a pretty mid unit in general in terms of what she does. Like you do have a wound, you do have a dispel with a defense buff, but like yeah, like there are other units that does what she does and way better. So yeah, don't bother. So that's for Makoto in terms of the don't bother category. So I think this is pretty much it for most of these units in terms of the don't bother side. I actually considered to put the taunt version of Rin here, but I found some use for this unit in Terramaton, and I think if you're able to get off the taunt and control the enemy for PvP side, I guess she's decently usable as a tank. So like similar to Viper, I think she will be a unit that could see some use in the PvP side, so that's why I'm going to put her maybe later. So Chiaki, same thing. Chiaki, like I mentioned earlier, not very stats reliant in terms of her kit, but I do think that as a speed tuner, she would appreciate having the 6-star stats to give her more speed to get her skills off in the PvP side. So that's for Chiaki. Yeah. I think the Speedster Rin version, this is a unit that scales off speed. But so far, I think the only place where I saw her being used is mostly PvP in terms of getting her skills off ASAP and then bursting the opponent down. So that's why maybe later. Not that good for PvE. So like yeah, like I think you can invest in her, but probably later for RTA contents. I think Bochne. Yeah, okay. So the reason why Bochne is maybe later. Let me explain why. I think there are some Bochne mains who might have invested in this unit, but I think Bochne as a character is really niche. Like I do see that attack to HP conversion making this unit better, but like first of all, he's a little bit too slow. He doesn't offer control. He doesn't offer that much of a debuff to begin with. So like yeah, like it's a little bit too niche. Like I do see a niche where he could become meta in the future. That's why he's maybe later. If I think that he's insanely bad, I'll put him in the don't bother tier. But I do think that there's a niche, so maybe later, probably not a unit you want to get to like the 6-star first. You have better units up there. Yeah. I'm gonna put D-Ting here. So this unit is insanely strong in the late game for specific bossing contents. Very, very good sniping potential. But there's a few things to make him good. First of all, you need the crit rate stats. You need a lot of stats to get the crit rate plus crit damage mass potential, which is quite late into the game. So like you just have better options for now for what he does in terms of the burst, in terms of the crit damage boost, in terms of the crit damage, crit rate like kind of efficiency. So I do think that there is this possibility that you might want to train him up for future use, but maybe later. So that's why he's here. I think another unit which is probably good is Chloros. Yeah, maybe later. So like I think Chloros got buffed in terms of the numbers, but even with the buff itself, I don't see a lot of people using him, and I don't see him on the clear timings or the clear teams in general. Like I think having more damage doesn't mean that this unit is necessarily better. So like I guess once you're in the end game, when everybody's maxed out, when you have all the different gears maxed out, when you can sort of like min-max your stats, then that's where his damage output might actually shine. But right now, at least in terms of the early to mid-game progression, haven't seen too much of him. I don't think he's that good for most of the bosses and dungeons in general, so that's why he's maybe later. Yeah, probably can see some use with the increased buff. So that's for Chloros. Oh yeah, Chloros here. Let's see. Lilith is insanely good for PvP because of the Graceful Mischief. So like she later won stats so that she's able to outspeed the opponent, use her ultimate to reduce to get the stun, and then you get a second skill with AoE damage as well as speed down, and then you have the first skill with the extra turn, so you wall up your opponent, you keep on getting the extra turn, and then you spam your skill and control them. So this unit is probably one of the stronger units for RTA in the later part, but at least in the early to mid game, first of all, haven't seen too much of a use for her. Might see some use for Doki Doki, can probably see some use for Doki Doki, but that's pretty much it for now, right? You can probably use her for all the different dungeons as a control unit, but control in general, either number one, right, you just want them to be at the lower star for now, right, or number two, yeah, you're probably mostly only using them for Doki Doki, so you have cheaper options over her. And I think for the PvP side right now, she probably don't scale up as well, but she's gonna be quite good for PvP moving forward, so that's why maybe later. Yeah, one of the higher maybe later, so that's why she's here. I'm gonna put Victor here despite the nerf of Victor. So the thing about Victor is that I think this unit's damage output got nerfed quite hard. Not sure what's the upper cap of this unit, but I think in the late game, if you do have enough numbers on him, he's probably still going to scale really well in terms of the damage, because he gets increased damage for every HP percentage loss. So there is still this potential of this unit still doing a lot, but I don't think he's as good as he used to be, and probably not a good early to mid-game choice to invest in for general PvE contents. So that's for our dear Victor here. Yeah. I think the next one for the maybe later. Okay, I think I want to put Sanya here, but at the same time, I've seen people clearing all the different dungeons on like Hell 3, Hell 4 with Sanya teams. So I think Sanya might still need the stats for her to survive to get her ultimate. So I'm going to put Sanya is 5-star, is good for now. So I'll explain about Shadow Sanya here. Not personal bias, by the way, it's based off some replays and some of the top scores from other players, which I can actually tap to show you guys. So continuing the maybe later. I think Valerian's maybe later. Like I think Valerian is also a unit which doesn't need that much stats to scale off, and I think she is good for PvE contents, but she's more powerful in the PvP side based off my personal experience. So like maybe later, like she's probably a unit that can go to 6-star but not a top priority. Veronica definitely later. Like I think for generic usability, Veronica's not the best of the bunch. and like she's definitely more PvP centric for the stat steal and stats transfer. So like if you do want to upgrade her, I won't prioritize her to 6-star yet, cause like she's not generic enough in my honest opinion. I think Yang, yeah, I guess generically Yang is a useful unit with good buffs and I think decent damage output, so maybe later. But like, yeah, for what he does, I think you have a lot of better units, so probably later for Yang's case. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the maybe later side. Let me take a look at other units. Yeah, I think maybe, yeah, I think that's good enough. Okay, so that's for maybe later. I think these are units which generically might have some use in the late game, or they are just, I'll say, a bit weaker compared to all the units above, so that's why I put them in the maybe later tier. And then 5-star is good for now, so we talked about Freya, generally good, but I don't think her skills are stats reliant, so probably not the highest priority to be in the 6-star yet, unless you use her a lot and you value her having more defensive stats to survive better and more damage to just squeeze out more damage in general. So more attack to squeeze up more damage in general. So that's for Freya. Sanya. Sanya might be on paper a very late game-ish carry, but right now, I think for this part, I will actually have to go into my replay showcase over here so that you guys can understand what I mean. So if we go into the challenge mode, so if we go into, for example, Hell Tree right here, let's go into the game. Okay. So let me, yeah, this one. So right here, as you guys can see, this is a Hell Tree clear for the top players right here. And Shadow Sanya with our fungus is seeing use right here. So like I do think that damage over time team is feasible on this boss because this boss doesn't have immunity yet. The immunity only comes in on Hell 4. So for this one, you might need some dispeller like Mia right here to dispel the immunity, and then you have your damage over time carry you on all these dungeons right here. So damage over time is not a very stats reliant stats, which means that I think at 5-star, both Fungus as well as Mia is good enough because their main damage source, they are mainly from their damage over time. So as long as they can survive, as long as they're fast enough to get off their skills, I think 5-star is good for now. Because like if you invest in them in 6-star, they might not be the best PvP character. So for the dungeon side, for the PvP side, I think they're amazing, right? If you're able to get DOT onto the opponent. Same thing, I think Obo is in this league. So like this is the trio for the damage over time team, which I showcase on the channel. I personally love Shadow Sanya a lot because like DOT team basically kills through every content as long as you can get DOT onto the opponent. So that's why they're good. But for now, I think 5-star is good enough because like as long as they can survive, as long as they can drop their debuffs onto the enemy, I think it's good enough to get through most of the contents. Yeah, I think Doki Doki. Doki Doki is another speed unit that might be good in a late game, although I think there's a lot of more speedier units running around like Mio, like Marvel, like Lily running around, so like she might not be that spectacular, but like if Doki Doki does get her buff off, she's actually quite strong, so probably a PvP centric unit moving forward. But right now, if you do use her as your speed buff unit, I think 5-star is good enough. Yeah, she's not very stats reliant. She's like turn meter manipulation as well as buff onto other allies, which doesn't even require her to have any like offensive stats. So yeah, you just need speed on her for her to get off her skills. So probably speed tuning, and then let's say if you use her a lot, then you might want to get her to 6-star for the additional speed stats. Same thing beyond Tin. I think a lot of buffers, I think they are good enough at 5-star for now. Cause like personally speaking, I guess you have better choices. And I think with regards to what they want to do, they're usually in the team for like their buffs and debuffs, not very stats reliant. So 5-star is good enough. And personally speaking, I won't even put them in T0.5 because I think for what they do, there are some better units which could be in the T0.5, which I'm going to put them there. So that's why they're in the 5-star is good for now. So Quinby, Tsukuyomi, Claws right here, Beyond Tin, I think they're all really amazing buffers. But I think as of the current stage of the game, I think 5-star is good for now for what they do. I think Kraken. Control, this is the debuffer, this is the control here. Use this unit for PvP, use this unit for Doki Doki, and also certain stages where you need the freeze to hold the enemies in place. So I personally think that like if you're using him as a damage dealer, eventually you need stats for this unit, but for now mostly used as the freeze for the ultimate as well as the second skill. So I think 5-star is good enough. Probably want to upgrade his skill so that you're able to cycle through the ultimate CC more frequently. So that's for Kraken. yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think Chucky. Yeah, I totally forgot about this unit. This unit got buffed up as a healer. Generically speaking, I think she's still okay as a healer. Same thing for Sanya. One got nerfed, one got buffed. Sanya in the past, I think, would be T0.5, but because she got nerfed, I think her heals are not as spectacular. And like I mentioned earlier, I think for the healers category, they are not a must-have for PvE contents. So eventually, these units will be your 6-star targets because you will use them for your RTA contents in general. But for now, I think 5-star is good enough. You want to upgrade their gears to bump up the stats so that you get more heals off their abilities. So that's for Chucky as well as Sanya. And Sanya has Dispel and has a heal based off her HP. So eventually, you have to upgrade her. It's just for now, I think 5-star is good enough. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Okay, so next let's move on to the T0.5. So these are like the better units in my honest opinion, and I think they can be worthy of your 6-star investment if you don't have your better unit. So first of all, we have Lian, like I mentioned, generically good early game carry, a unit that everyone has, and you do get like the dupes for this unit from doing the hyperlink charter. So getting her to 6-star and then just using her to carry you in your PvE contents, and then later on having some use for her in the PvP side is okay. So that's why T0.5. Grey is generically good, like a unit with crit rate buff as well as defense down. I think you can't go wrong with this unit, although he might not be the most spectacular unit, but with enough stats in terms of the 6-star category getting to level 50, I think this unit is still able to do a lot of stuff, right? Cycling through the skills really fast, getting the crit buff onto the whole team, using the dragon ultimate for the defense debuff, normal attacking, maybe have some sort of cooldown reduction, get the crit rate off, and then use the ultimate once again. So Grey does have the potential, although he's not the best of the pack, so that's why I put him in T0.5. For this one, I think all the existing healers, they are worthy to be upgraded to 6-star because personally speaking, I think you do need some stats for some of them to survive, and eventually you'll use them for all the different like contents both on PvP and PvE anyway. So Linglor is going to be free on the 7-day lock-in. I think she's also quite okay. I think I'm going to put Linglor down there. No, not because Linglor is bad, by the way. I think Linglor is actually one of the best healers. In fact, probably the best healer around. But Linglor's heal is actually based off the max HP percentage of the allies. So if I were to go by the logic of Sanya as well as Chucky, where you don't actually need a healer that much, and them not being very stats reliant, I think I'm going to put Linglor in 5-star is good for now. But Mia, on the other hand, is actually used as an offensive healer, where you use her for the Dispel to remove the immunity for certain team setups, which I showcased earlier with the DOD team, or maybe with certain bosses where there's a lot of bars where you need the Dispel. So I think she's a unit which probably needs more stats, and because her shielding requires her to have a bit of stats to give more shielding efficiency, and her heal giving like more heals with more attack, I think she's okay to get to 6-star. Eventually you'll use her for both contents anyway, so yeah, I just put her in the T0.5 category. I'm going to put Tiamat in the T0.5. I do think that Tiamat's still insanely strong, but is she T0? Probably not, because like she lost quite a bit of healing, which makes her less tanky. I think people are still finding success with her. I don't deny her still being really good, but losing a massive heal means that you probably need a healer to sort of give her the additional sustain that she used to have. And like I won't put her in the T0 because like in the past she's definitely T0 because you can self-heal, she does a lot of damage, and then she's unkillable if you're another healer in the team. But right now she's definitely a lot more killable compared to the past. So T0.5. Dina is T0.5 because she's one of the best debuffers. I think she's the best debuffer. Okay, Dina. Okay, so sorry. Let me correct myself. Okay, Dina is the best debuffer. She's not one of the best. She's the best because she has a defense down. She has a damage increase through the crit damage up. So like having more stats on her will allow you to push through a lot of the dungeons, especially Terramaton, a lot more like quickly with all the debuff and then just slamming the opponent with damage. So in the PvP side, she's also usable. If you get her to use her skills first to debuff the opponent, there is a possibility that with enough speed support, your carry can just one swipe the opponent. So I still think she's quite good, and I'll put her in the T0.5 tier. So Rahu got buffed, but I think number one, the team building side is just not as easy as the likes of Lian or Shiada, and generically I think Rahu is probably mostly shown in the records because Wales have the resources to pump him up. But let's say if you are low on resource, you're free to play, I think it's okay. But like I guess you just have better options up there, so I'm going to put in T0.5. Shiada is basically the blue color version of Lien, where you want a lot of buffs on them and then they start to carry you from there. So if you like furries with a slightly bigger booba, I guess Shiada is probably a decent choice to upgrade as well. Yeah, so Dina is here. We did some adjustments there. So that's with regards to the T0.5 side. So last but not least, let's go into the T0 side, okay? So T0 side, we have Rimocha, Rosa, as well as Hellkit as the trio color carry. So Rimocha right now is the best green carry that can be used for your Doki Doki runs in general. So having her as 6 star allows her to increase her Q potential tremendously, and then from there translate to AoE damage and even more killing potential with some sustain in her kit. So Rimocha is T0 carry for sure. Rosa's probably the best blue carry right now if you don't consider a fully buffed up Shiada. So Rosa is quick, you buff the crit damage on her and then she starts going ham with all the follow-up damage with the second skill passive. And then she's also a relatively stats reliant unit because she does a lot of damage, she does a lot of repeated damage and has a very high attack frequency. So that's something good about her, but she's relatively understated. So you want to bump her up to 6 star to maximize her stats so that she's able to do a lot of damage. For Hellkit's case, Hellkit is actually insanely good. This unit, once you are fast enough, you're able to get off the shock barrier before your opponent debuff you, you are pretty much invincible against them in PvP, right? In the PvE side, having the additional shield means that your team can survive better and maybe survive even without a healer, just with a Hellkit being a pseudo shielder plus damage dealer for your team in general. So that's for Hellkit in T0, very good unit with a lot of stats. For the Hendrich, okay, so Hendrich as well as Messiah needs no explanation. They are basically like the best light and dark damage dealer for generic contents. They can be sort of slotted into most teams anyway, so having more stats on them allows them to hit harder and survive better. And anyway, you're going to get to 6 star anyway for PvP, so yeah, just upgrade them if you have the opportunity. So that's for the 2 light and dark. So last but not least, we have 3 of the best speed tuners in the game. Okay, so Lily needs no explanation. If you get her to max speed, you get off the buff, and then you have a Marvel in the team, for example, you're just gonna outspeed everything, and then yeah, you just gonna win the match in PvP, right? Same thing for Mio, same thing for Marvel. Like, the thing about these 3 speed tuners is they are also very good for PvE contents. Like, for example, Lily, very good with your hyper carry. Her first skill is able to launch an attack and then has a 100% chance for the follow-up from your Twin Tricks ally, which is usually a hyper carry with the most stats, so very good for PvE contents. And then she has a cooldown reduction for your carry to actually spam the skills. And then for Mio's case, AoE control, good for Doki Doki. AoE turn still very good for turn manipulation. So I think having the additional stats as well as speed for her to get her skills off, really greatly appreciated. So Marvel, same thing. This 3, like I mentioned earlier, not only good for PvP but also PvE. So Marvel's push got nerfed, but the ability to use the AoE push to push all the enemies back is still greatly appreciated. And then having more effect resist down allows your other debuffs to come in more easily. And Marvel as a unit is still generally very versatile across the board despite the nerf. So that's why this unit is also T0 to be in a 6 star category. For the bonus stats, as a semi DPS with speed control and also a PvP unit with the additional speed. So that's pretty much it, my 6 star priority tier list. So hopefully this tier list is sort of understandable and easy enough for you guys to understand which unit to prioritize. Obviously, there are some personal bias here and there, but I try my best to break down all the different units as well as my observation for this unit in the current meta. So thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys again in my next Etheria restart video. Bye guys.